Hi, I'm your host, Anand J. Sukadia, and this is the Limitless One podcast. Join me on this journey as I interview the most inspirational souls who are tapping into their limitless blueprint on a mental, physical, and spiritual level to thrive in uncertain times. If you feel you are so much more than just this body, just this life, and want to tap into your limitless potential, you're in the right place. Here we go, starseeds. Are you seeking out a medical practitioner with a deep knowledge of overall health that offers several holistic modalities situated in a loving and supportive environment? In today's episode, you will meet one of my personal health practitioners that I go to improve my health and get my body physically aligned. Welcome to the Limitless One podcast. I am your host, Anand J. Sukadia. Dr. Laura Brayton, DC, CSP, CSCP, CACCP, is a graduate of the New York Chiropractic College and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She holds certifications in Chiropractic Pediatrics, Webster Technique for breech presentation, Sacro-Occipital Technique, or S.O.T, Craniopathy, is an advanced level practitioner of Nambudripad's Allergy Elimination Technique, also known as NAET, and a Tupler Technique trainer. She is the owner and founder of the Hoboken Family Chiropractic and Wellness in Hoboken, New Jersey. Follow her on Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Laura Brayton and at drlaurabrayton.com. Also check out her podcast, The Well-Adjusted Mama, on iTunes, Spotify, and all the other podcast platforms. You can even check out the episode where she interviewed yours truly. Let's get limitless with our health, starseeds. Here we go. Hi, Dr. Laura Brayton. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I get to spend a lot of time with you. I come to you weekly for my allergy treatments as well as my chiropractic adjustments. So I know a lot about your practice, and I'm just so excited to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Wonderful. Let's jump right into it. What does living a limitless life mean to you?
That's a great question. So this is something that I think I'm still figuring out, but I've done years and years of personal development work. And I think what I've really realized is that, a lot of us have really strong subconscious beliefs from the first 7 years of our life that are just like they become our pattern, they become our truth, they become our stories. And they create limits and they create limitations. And as we're doing this work on ourselves and we're starting to recognize those patterns or blocks that might be no longer serving us, we can recognize that once we change that story, some of those limitations are removed, right? And so you're kind of like, to me, like an onion, peeling back those layers and discovering essentially your true self, which is limitless, but is different than our subconscious patterns.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You change your story and you change your life. It's like anytime there needs to be change, you have to ask the question, like, okay, what is your belief around any particular area of your life? And if it's not empowering, then it's very, it takes effort, but it is possible to change everything. There's nothing that is static. Any belief that we have can be changed. So for those on the limitless path, that's what we have to address and be honest with ourselves to be, to be.
Yeah, we have to like have our ego get over it and, and go there. And I think now as a mother, I have a 4-year-old son. Parenting is one of the best ways to become more conscious of these patterns and change the story, because our child will literally mirror back those blocks or limitations. And it will create frustration and irritability and anger within ourselves when we're getting that mirror reflection. And there's an opportunity to learn and grow from that. And it's very important to do that, not only number one for ourselves, but then also for our child, because then we're able to model what being conscious is and being present is. And our children will learn how to do that as well, especially the first 7 years of their life.
100%. The kids come into this place. They have limitless beliefs. They believe in imaginary friends, and they have so much abundance of thought and no limitations. It's really their environment, and especially parents and people around them, that start implanting their own subconscious, blockages into the child. So it's so important to be aware of that. And it's a great practice, especially as a parent, to monitor your own thoughts. So Dr. Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became this successful entrepreneur and chiropractor?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I have to give a lot of credit to my father. My father was an electrical engineer his entire career. He worked like 20 years at GE and 20 years at Siemens, like a loyalty. He did, and that was his the two businesses that he worked for. Never wanted to own his own business, but loved to have the 9 to 5 and time for family, after that, and have that work-life balance. It wasn't stressful for him. And that's what it was comfortable for him. But he really was fascinated with the chiropractic profession because he really understood what that structure equals function. And it just was so logical to him. So when he was exposed to chiropractic in his early 20s, soon after graduating as an engineer, it clicked. And he was like, this is going to be my healthcare for the rest of my life. And then introduced my mom to it when she was pregnant with me as her first child for her pregnancy back pain. And my sister and I have been under care our entire lives, which is what you will find if you have a family member who's a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are like, oh, your dad must have been a chiropractor. I'm like, he was a wannabe chiropractor. He was like so fascinated with how powerful and simple it was to get a chiropractic adjustment. He loved that you could work with your hands because he loved to build things. He was very like hands-on kind of guy. You can, have the opportunity to have your own business, make your own hours, make your own schedule, and get paid well for it. So there was a lot about it he liked, but I think he was not really into doing like more years of school. So that was why he never became one. But he really strongly encouraged me to become one. And I remember around the age of 5, he was like, yeah, you should be a chiropractor one day because of all these great reasons. And here I am. And so that was kind of my destiny. And I do love working with my hands. I do believe that some people are born with a gift to really use healing through their hands. And I have that gift. And I also was always called to working with babies and working with pregnant moms, even as a child. So, I would play like pediatrician. And then also like when I was in college, I like for a hot second thought about becoming a midwife. So there was something always very fascinating to me about a pregnant woman's body and what's being created and then birth and then the baby and all of that. And so for me, being able to kind of merge that as a chiropractor that specializes in taking care of pediatrics, including newborns, as well as pregnant women, women throughout their whole perinatal journey, which is the preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum phase. I get to do both of that and work kind of as a specialist in that area without necessarily having to be on call for births, right? Or having to be responsible for a life-threatening illness with a pregnant mom or a baby. That's where their other doctors come in, but I get to be their wellness provider. So, which I love. And I get to see people when they're healthy and help keep them healthy, as opposed to when they're sick and or have a trauma that is, life-threatening.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And that's one of the things I got to experience growing up is like my parents were doctors. My sister was an Ayurvedic doctor. So I had to see the whole spectrum of the healthcare and realize that you have to be proactive about your health. If you're not proactive, then obviously you have to wait till something happens to you. Then you go see a doctor that will prescribe you medicine or surgery or something like that. Whereas if you're maintaining the vehicle that we have, this beautiful creation that we have, this body, and if we're honoring it and making sure that we're doing everything we can, inputting the right things in the mind, in the body, everywhere, and in the spirit, then it runs a lot smoother. And then you don't have to worry too much about, the breakdowns of it.
That's completely correct. And I think what I absolutely love about the chiropractic philosophy is, as chiropractors, we believe in innate intelligence within our bodies, that's then controlled by a universal intelligence. So there's very much a spiritual component to chiropractic. There's an art, a science, and a philosophy. But foundationally, anybody who is interested in doing work on themselves and addressing mental, emotional, and spiritual health, you have to do the physical health first. It is impossible to do the evolution in those other areas if the physical body is not being taken care of. So I think that's what's cool is when I give somebody a chiropractic adjustment, I am addressing their physical body. And I'm specifically optimizing their nervous system function so that essentially the computer of the body can work more effectively. And that from there will then allow them to think clearer, manage their emotion or their states in a more managed way, because their nervous system is now in better tone with the sympathetic and parasympathetic. They're out of that fight or flight, and then they can actually make better, more grounded decisions from that place. And that allows us to then have our meditation practice and other areas in spiritual development that will help us grow as human beings, because the body is in balance.
Yeah, it really comes down to that functionality of the body and the skeletal system. If you're off, if your posture is off, you're not breathing as deep, then you're under stress. If you're in pain, if something is, your neck is a little bit misaligned, you're going to be thinking about that. So stress hormones are released. That leads to a poison created in the body. And then it just cycles from there. It's a vicious cycle. So when we get our bodies back, that's like you said, it's the foundation. And then we could start pursuing greater levels of this human experience when we're in pain and we're in constant pain, which so many individuals are, unfortunately. How do you go and then start pursuing those higher levels of awareness and consciousness? It's almost impossible.
It's harder,
you're physically,
sure.
in a lot of pain.
And I agree. Like it's pain. This is really the big thing here. And pain can be caused from emotional trauma and stress, right? But even as chiropractors, we believe that the misalignments in the spine, or what we call subluxations, are created not only from physical stress, which is what a lot of people only want to think of. Oh, the bone's out of alignment. That must be because of my poor posture, or I was in a fender bender, or I slipped on the ice. So we know that those are all physical stressors on our body and can certainly create these misalignments. But chemical stress is a second reason, which you had mentioned, like the hormones in our body, junk food, alcohol, chemicals in our environment are all chemical stressors, which can also create misalignments in our spine, which then negatively impact that nervous system function. And then the third thing is the emotional stressors. So, sometimes people come in and be like, oh, I just woke up and I couldn't turn my neck. And they're like trying to think of all the physical reasons for that reaction. Right. And I'm like, well, how's your stress level? Oh my God, I'm so stressed out. I'm like, okay, maybe that's why you can't turn your neck. And I can once again work on their neck. I can give them relief. They're going to leave my office moving their head much more freer. However, I know that will not hold if they don't do something to manage those emotional stressors, and recognizing that we will have physical, chemical, and emotional stress in our life as humans. Like, we need to have some, there needs to be something there going on. However, we want to minimize those stressors to the best of our ability. And that is lifestyle. That is, how are you sitting or standing for work? How are you moving? What are you eating? How are you breathing? And how are you thinking? Is your brain bombarded with negative thoughts and emotions? What can you do to help shift that story and not be stuck in those negative patterns? Because all of that will impact the body. And the more we can minimize that, the happier and healthier we can be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about everything we consume on every level. I was just reading this quote earlier today from Hippocrates. What he says is, if somebody wishes for good health, one must first ask oneself if he is ready to do away with the reasons for his illness. Only then it is possible to help him.
Yes, that's a very good quote. I've heard that one before, and it's very true. It's very true. So, part of the challenge for me in my practice is when I have somebody coming in maybe for the first time because they are experiencing pain, which is a good, I'd love to see people when they're healthy, but sometimes they're like, I feel good, nothing's broke, so why fix it, right? That mentality. So they got to be broken to come in sometimes for their first visit. And then we educate them about the wellness maintenance component as well. But when they come in and we're talking to them, we're always mentioning lifestyle. So it's not just like, let me put you back into place, so to speak, with your alignment and send you on your way. But let's talk about all the things you're doing outside of my office that I have no control over, because I'm not going to your house and cooking your meals and making sure you're exercising and making sure you're meditating. Like that's on you as an adult and or the parent of a child to manage those lifestyles. But I can help show you how to do it. And what's cool is people are feeling, they come in with pain and they're feeling pain relief within those first couple of visits. What we do see is there's a motivation then to make more of those lifestyle changes because they actually are feeling better and they don't want to go back to pain, right? That's a strong stimulus there. They want to feel pleasure. They want to feel good. And how do you do things that are going to help you move towards that? And a healthy lifestyle is foundational for that.
Yeah, success breeds success. Is it all these little wins, they just pile on top of each other. And then you're more motivated because you know what's possible. And one of the things I love most about you and your practice is that you really take a holistic approach. So it's not like you're just going to get adjusted. Can you tell us a little bit about the primary focuses of your practice?
Yeah, so essentially, my practice is in Hoboken and we do take care of the whole family. So we specialize in taking care of pregnant women or women really that are perinatal, which is like preconception, ideally supporting them before they get pregnant throughout the pregnancy, first, second, and third trimester, helping them feel good, have a healthy head down baby, and then helping prepare their pelvis for an easier labor and delivery if they're able to have a vaginal delivery, and then helping their body heal and recover after the birth. And milk production and all the things that go into that fourth trimester or those first 3 months after giving birth. So we do a lot of that work. We take care of a lot of babies having latching challenges, digestive issues, sleep challenges, because those babies have a stressed nervous system as well, potentially from the birth process, in utero positioning and or well, that's really it. When we see a newborn, it's got to be one or the other or both. And we're able to gently adjust that baby, no popping or cracking, to also, once again, just essentially allow optimal nervous system function. And then we see that impacts their milestone development, the first year of life, tummy time, rolling, crawling, walking, all the things are going to work better when their nervous system is working better. It's just like, so once again, so logical. But not everybody knows, oh yeah, I can bring my baby to a chiropractor. So we do these things. We certainly take care of dads and young professionals as well with chiropractic alignment. But then if somebody's needing additional support, and I also want to mention that I'm a craniopath, which means I have additional training on adjusting the skull, which 80% of our nervous system is within our skull, right? So when I'm impacting nervous system, if I only do the spine, I'm missing 80%. So addressing the alignment of the bones of the skull, which do move even as adults, but especially a baby, their skulls are very malleable, and we want to make sure those bones are lined up so that essentially the brain that doubles in size that first year of life can grow optimally within this case of a skull, and that there's not any restriction from a bony perspective in that growth and development. But then in addition to chiropractic, I offer NAET, which is an Nambudripad's allergy elimination technique. And that specifically is working to find any type of energetic allergy or physical allergen that is stressing the body or stressing the energy system. So we have people hold a vial of a potential allergen. It could be a food, it could be environmental, like a pollen or grass. It could be emotional. It could be a part of the body or hormone. Like I have thousands of vials with any of these potential allergens. And when you hold a vial of something that is stressing your energy field, your muscle will go weak with a muscle test, because every allergen has its own energy field and each person's body has its own energy field. And if those energy fields are in conflict with each other, it will create that weakness in the muscle. So then to clear that specific allergen, the person holds that vial while I do acupressure points along the spine and acupressure gate points with a laser on their body to help their body hold the treatment. And it's very powerful. And I currently am working with a little girl right now that has several anaphylactic allergens to foods. And this is a big deal because when you have an anaphylaxis level allergy, your life feels threatened on a daily basis. It's hard to feel safe. It's hard for a parent to feel safe. And our nervous system needs to feel safe to fully thrive, right? So if we can, I'm not going to eliminate that little girl's allergies to peanuts and the other sesame and other allergens that she has, but I can reduce her allergy load with this technique so that even though ideally she's still avoiding it and not eating it, if there's an accidental exposure, it doesn't have to be a life-threatening event. And so that's the power of NAET. Most of my patients are coming in because they're having more milder type like seasonal allergies or maybe a food intolerance, like they eat gluten and they get bloated. So, NAET can be used for anything like that, but it can also be used for more of the severe ones, and just recognizing that if it's a mild allergy, we can eliminate it. But if it's a severe allergy, we just bring the level down, and we can check this with pre and post blood work. To show that the intensity of the allergy has decreased, even though it's still there, and it's still not healthy for that person to eat that food.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. You went over so much there. So I want to chat a little bit about the NAT and then go back to some of the other things you talked about. But the reason why I started coming to you is because you and I had a conversation. You came to my spa, and I was telling you about how I'm so allergic to everything, and I have really bad seasonal allergies to food. I had this really bad dry cracked skin on my fingers, which completely gone right now. Thank you for that. But I was suffering a lot, and what was happening is, I'm very much into meditation, spiritual, growth and self-development and all this kind of stuff. But as I was suffering so much in the allergy part of my life, it was hard for me to get to that next level. And, working with you, I was working with you since probably like late or fall of last year. And I've been coming in every single week. We've been testing literally everything. And I think you start out with 15 different allergens, 15 different vials. They call them the basic 15. We went through that, and then we went into sub sectors of specific allergies that I have: grass, pollen, wheat, all the pretty, the famous ones. Yeah. Dust, mold, all that kind of stuff. But I started noticing like each week there was things that were happening in my body where I just felt more in alignment. My allergies severely diminished over that time. I was still having, flare-ups and things like that, but they kept going down. And right now I, knock on wood, I don't really have any big allergy, like flare-ups in my life. And one of the biggest results I got was like my hands. For years, I would say about 5 to 10 years, I had this really dry skin, cracked skin. It was itchy all the time. Every time I ate something, it was causing inflammation and histamines to be produced in my body. And it was causing this like really bad cycle. And these were things that I love to eat, like avocados and all these other things. So this really works. I mean, like I've been around, my parents used to take me for allergy tests and doing allergy shots with an allergist every single week. It didn't really do that much for me. I took Claritins, I took the Zyrtex, all that stuff. I just noticed that it was affecting my body and making me tired during the day and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then this is something that I know that it works, and it helped me out so much. So I'm just super excited to share this with everyone who's suffering from allergies, because yeah, it absolutely will lower the load of, the allergic response.
It really does. And, for bigger allergies, we might have to do that specific allergen multiple times. I've had that with some patients. This little girl, I haven't even gotten to her severe ones yet. Like we have to prepare her body. And we might even have to use her mother as a surrogate, because she can't hold that vial in the beginning. So we can use a surrogate, which is also what I do when I do NAT with babies or children that are like essentially under 5 and don't know how to do muscle testing or essentially hold their arm strong. So we can use a parent as a surrogate, which is so powerful. Like it's a very powerful energetic modality specifically for, we call it allergies because you can use it for that food and environmental allergens. But I've had really powerful results even with people that are having a lot of emotional things that they're blocked in. And I have 4 kits. Each kit has, let's say, 80 vials. I have 4 of just emotions. And it's like, how are you allergic to an emotion? Well, it's like each emotion has its own energy as well. And so we can clear things like that. And I've worked with autoimmune conditions because autoimmune essentially means you're allergic to a specific part of your body. So we can clear that organ and the hormones associated with it and help the body essentially be at ease with itself. So it's not attacking itself, which is what autoimmune is. So it's really quite powerful if you think about all the different applications. I've even had patients that have had reactions with either COVID or the vaccine that we're able to use NAET to help desensitize that. I have the vial company in California shipping me out some the updated COVID variants this week. So I'm like, I have people coming in and I'm like, I have a variant from a year ago and that's not doing it anymore.
Yeah. Do you have monkeypox yet?
They're sending me monkeypox. I'm like, holy crap. I can't believe I'm going to have a monkeypox vial in my office, but it's on its way. And, it's like, it's good to have these on hand because, really bizarre things can get stuck in our body. I had one patient, she moved out of the area, but we were treating things that we were both like, this has got to be past lifetime. But the whole point is because we're working on energy, it could be present life, past life. It could be when you were a fetus. We don't have to always know the story behind it. We just muscle test. And what's cool is I can ask the body, like, what's today's priority? It tells me specifically what vials, maybe more than one that person needs at that moment to help in their healing journey. And that's what we do. It's like, you keep it simple. The body knows what's best for it. And we just have to really listen and be respectful to get that information. And it's cool because with muscle testing, then I can also use it for the bioenergetic evaluations I do in my office. So if somebody's coming in with health challenges and they need to take maybe some supplements to help their body heal, in addition to the chiropractic adjustments, we can also use muscle testing for that. So same idea, you're laying on the table, you have a strong arm up, and then I'm essentially testing where there's an imbalance in the organ systems. And then also based off of their history and their symptoms, thinking like, okay, maybe this herb or this homeopathic or this nutritional supplement could benefit. I have them hold a sample of it and it's a yes or a no. Yes, my body needs that, or no, it doesn't need it. And then I can also check dosage. If it's a yes, like, is it how many drops or how many capsules a day does the body need? When do we need to recheck? 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks, 5 weeks to actually change the protocol. Because recognizing as the body's healing, especially when we're not doing like a maintenance type supplement, they're not going to be on these supplements long term. This is not a medication for life. This is like we're healing the body. So as the body is healing, the supplement type of supplement and the dosage will of course change. So then we'll see, okay, the higher dose supplements are now reducing to a smaller dose per day, or that remedy is no longer needed, but now we're ready for this new remedy. And we can like continue that healing journey through the supplementation. And I love it because it's very specific. We don't have to guess. Okay, you have a thyroid issue, so here, take this thyroid supplement, right? Which unfortunately, I feel like allopathic medicine, it's like, okay, here's the diagnosis. This is the drug we use for that diagnosis. And then, now the person has a horrible side effect. So you don't tolerate it. Let's try the second drug. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try the third drug. And it's kind of like a guessing game. And it could be a potential, a lot of side effects and or death is complementing that. And like, we don't need to do that. Like all these supplements are safe. And, even though they're safe, if they're not effective, I don't want you to put them in your body, right? So like, let's be clear about what's going to be effective, what's safe. Let's help your body heal and get you to where you want to be faster.
Yeah, beautiful. And what I love about that is the whole approach is do no harm. You know, the Hippocratic oath, which all healers should be no, this should be their number one priority. But and then also you're incorporating multiple modalities at the same time, using muscle testing. You're using your chiropractic adjustments. You're using lasers as well to kind of like hit all the energy points in the body. As well as the NAET, and to using it as a whole, as a collective, you yield better results. So Dr. Laura, I wanted to get back to, you're talking about the practice, the angle where you're helping conceiving parents, as well as the fertilization and all that kind of stuff. I know it's a big challenge these days. Fertility rates are low. What do you see as the number one challenge people are having while they're trying to conceive these days?
Yeah. So, we're in the New York City area. So in general, people are waiting later to start families, and for good reason. I think, like, especially if, both partners, including the woman, is very career oriented. There's definitely a hustle that goes with building your career and going up the rungs. And it's really hard to do that when you have children, or are pregnant. So you kind of do that beforehand. And then you're like, okay, now I'm ready to start a family. And you're in your 30s or even early 40s. And there can potentially be a little more, it could be a little harder potentially to conceive. So what I find is, ideally, I'm working with women and their partners preconception. And if you've had a healthy lifestyle, 20s and 30s, like myself, I was able to conceive very easily, naturally at the age of 39. But that's because that was my lifestyle and it was years of that, right? But if you've been really like working hard, stressed, and perhaps not taking care of your body as much, now is the time to do that. And your partner needs to do that too. When we look at the ability to conceive and not only get pregnant, but to maintain a healthy pregnancy, we have to look at both partners. And I think, so, unfortunately, if it's challenging to get pregnant, and or if it's if a woman gets pregnant but has recurrent miscarriages, people tend to just put all the blame on the woman, right? Because that's the most obvious. But we have to understand that the male partner is contributing 50% of the genetics. And the vessel with the woman's body could potentially be part of the challenges with getting pregnant and maintaining a pregnancy. But we also have to look at the genetic health of that baby. And recurrent miscarriages could also be indicative, or difficulty even getting pregnant in the first place could be because of the father's sperm, right? And so that's why it's wonderful for really both partners to up their lifestyle habits and towards health, right? And that's really taking a deep dive into doing a physical detox of your body. And we can have an epigenetic component on the egg and the sperm prior to conception, which is very important for that health of the baby. And then also recognizing the toxins in our skincare and home and foods that we want to be very conscious of, that we're minimizing during this preconception phase, once again, for both partners. And then that's going to make it much easier to get pregnant and then be healthy during the pregnancy and have a healthy baby. So it does take two to have that. And I think that, unfortunately, our current environment is so toxic that we cannot completely avoid toxic exposure. There's been a lot of research to show that, moms living in all parts of the world are having the cord blood of their baby is showing like hundreds of toxins. So we can't avoid it, but we can do our best to lower that and minimize it. And it really there needs to be a lot of consciousness around that.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. We could do an entire podcast on this topic because it's so in depth. You're such an expert on it. So if anybody wants to learn more about it, check out Dr. Laura's website. Can you tell us the site for?
Yeah, so my site is drlaurabrayton.com. That's DRLauraBrayton. If you go there, you can find out more about my practice in Hoboken Family Chiropractic and Wellness. You can also find out about my online products. I have a preconception online module that's self-paced, called the Brayton Birth Method. I also also have my documentary that's on my own pregnancy and birth journey that's available. I have a fertility ebook. And then I also have a 1-week excerpt from the Brayton birth method that's specifically on how to do an environmental detox. So there's a lot of different options there for women and couples that are thinking about getting pregnant in the next 3 to 6 months to learn how they can do that from a more educated and empowered place.
Cool. And switching gears a little bit, I know you and I are both very much into self-development. You can say we're self-development junkies in a
Yes,
way.
definitely.
And we're constantly
Thousands and
improving
thousands of
ourselves.
dollars later, all worth every penny.
Absolutely. And, we connected on that level so many times. But tell us about like your journey to entrepreneurialism and why you decided to become an entrepreneur. I know a lot of chiropractors, they'll join a practice or they'll just be a single person, practitioner, but you really developed this an amazing business that really takes care of the entire family, and you have several practitioners working for you. Tell us about how you got into that and where you started, because nobody gives you a manual on how to become a great entrepreneur.
No. And I would say that, I'm 17 years now as an entrepreneur, but if you had asked me 19 years ago when I was graduating from chiropractic school, would I have my own business one day? I wasn't exactly sure what the answer was. It wasn't like very clear to me that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor. I knew I wanted to use the gifts in my hands. I didn't even necessarily knew I wanted to have a whole personal brand, right? This has kind of been an evolution over the past couple decades for myself and understanding what my life's purpose is and how I can serve at the highest level. But essentially right out of school, like a lot of people, I was looking for an associateship. I found a practice in New Jersey. I had no family living in New Jersey, but I was dating my chiropractic school boyfriend who was from New Jersey. So I was like, I'll move to New Jersey. And then I moved to New Jersey and he dumped me. And I was like, oh crap, now what do I do? And I was living in Bergen County and in a town that wasn't like a bunch of young single people. So it was kind of miserable for me. So it was like my life was just going into this practice and adjusting people, but not really having any social life. I didn't really have any family support. And after a few months of that, I was like, I can't, this is not good for me. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel like I'm living my purpose. And so I connected with a woman, another chiropractor in town, and she's like, oh, all the young single people live in Hoboken. And I'm like, oh, Hoboken, where's that? I never heard of it. I'm not from New Jersey. So I remember driving there one day and being like, oh yeah, this is where I want to live, and finding an apartment. And then a year after that, recognizing I don't want to work for somebody anymore. I want to practice the way I want to practice. I want to do all these additional trainings to really evolve my gifts and practice the way I want to practice. Right. And I wasn't seeing a lot of pregnant women and babies in my first position. So I knew that was missing. So the blessing of all that is then I found a place to open my practice and in Hoboken. And that felt like really in alignment for what I wanted. And I just figured it out from there. I don't think I knew what I was really doing, but I just took it one day at a time and I hustled a lot. I was like at every networking event. I was all out there meeting everyone I could and networking and connecting with other like-minded providers, practitioners in my area, and just grow, right? So those first few years, I worked a lot, and it was also easier for me because I was single. I didn't have a partner and a child that required my energy. So my business was my first baby.
Yeah, beautiful. And what a business it is. If anyone's in the Northern Jersey area, Jersey City or Hoboken, please check her out. She's got so many different modalities, and it's a wonderful experience. So it feels like you're going into a spa. So Dr.
Thank
Laura,
you.
why do you think you came here to Earth as Dr. Laura Brayton? What did you want to experience?
Yeah. So I took me a long time to figure that out, beyond like, okay, I'm a chiropractor. And I'm like, no, I'm not just a chiropractor. There's more, I have more to offer than that. And so that's been an evolution over the past few years where I've really got clear that my North Star is birthing global peace. And even understanding what that means has been an evolution. So the first thing that was like, it's like, I want to create programs and products where I can work with perinatal women living anywhere in the world, because I've been doing that for, years within my office, one-on-one with these women, and really perfecting that empowerment place of helping women not only get pregnant and be pregnant in a healthy, thriving pregnancy, but then creating an empowered birth experience, which will then create an empowered mother. And that is literally shifting the consciousness for these women, and therefore their children in the next generation, right? So I felt very strongly about that. But then in addition to that, what also has come up for me is then becoming a mother myself 4 years ago, and understanding that my son has a place to play in birthing global peace as well, as a future leader and peacekeeper for the earth. And so how do I mother that person, right? And how do I show up? And it feels like a lot of responsibility, but he's a very special soul, and I really just have to get out of the way, honestly.
It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And what role does spirituality play in your life?
It plays a big role. And that's also interesting. That's been an evolution over the years. So growing up, my parents were fairly strict Christians. My mom was raised Catholic, but my dad was not. So when he got married, he told my mom, he's like, listen, I don't like Catholicism and I'm never going to be a Catholic. Mm-hmm. So my mother essentially left the Catholic Church, much to my grandparents' dismay. And my sister and I were not raised Catholic. We were raised in a Christian church. We read the Bible every day, and it was very Bible focused, Jesus focused. And I don't live my life that way anymore, but I know that the morality and the ethics that I learned from my childhood are with me. And I appreciate that, because there was a lot of teachings about what that meant to essentially be kind, be generous, care for others, some of these foundational things, caring for ourselves, understanding that we're a temple of God, essentially, our bodies. So really understanding what that means to love ourselves and care for ourselves. So I think that now as an adult, I can look back at those teachings and Sunday school and whatever, and I have a different perspective on them, but they're still valuable. And now how do I teach that also to my son without necessarily going to church, but recognizing that those values and belief systems are very important for him to learn as well. I would say currently I have a meditation practice that has fulfilled me very much spiritually, and then being a conscious parent as well.
So beautiful. Dr. Laura, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your gifts with the world and your community. And also thank you personally for helping me in my health journey with the allergies and helping my body get back into proper alignment. So I want to wish you a wonderful day, and I can't wait for the audience to learn more about you.
Cool. Thank you so much.